Hey guys, it's Eric, owner of Farpoint Farms here in the mountains, North Carolina. Tonight I wanted to share with you this. This is one of the pickups I got at the Shelby HAM Fest, which was so awesome. I love that thing. Anyway, this is a Uniden Pro 810E. This is kind of an unusual and a bit rare base station. It was made towards the end of base station runs, you know, for your like the Cobra was being discontinued. Uniden was discontinuing the Washington. This was also on their lineup. And I think it would probably have competed against, say, the Cobra 2010. Not the 2000, but the 2010, which was also kind of a smaller, more compact, slightly more modernized looking CB. Now, this is a good performer. It is a sideband base station, and I'm not really sure why it wasn't overly successful. It's based on the Uniden, I think it's either the PC66XL, or it might have been the 122XL, or it might even have been the Grant. But somewhere inside of this is the board for a mobile sideband radio that Uniden was producing at the time. I think it was maybe the 122, but honestly, I can't remember off the top of my head. But what we have here is a pretty cool radio. I'll go ahead. Well, let me show you some close-ups actually before I plug it in and see what's going on here. But you know, here's a close-up of the front and the buttons and knobs and the front-firing speaker that's on that. And here's a picture of the back of it. And kind of cool on the bottom, you can see that there is a place here to unscrew it and work on it without removing the entire board from the chassis, so that's kind of cool. Now that you've seen the underside, let's go ahead and turn this thing on. I've got it plugged in and powered up, and I'll go through all the buttons and knobs and stuff that are on this because it is kind of a nice radio. Of course, we do have our volume / on-off over here. And over on this side here, we have just the one, and that is our mic gain. I'll go ahead and turn that up. Now, this one did not come with a microphone, so I just went ahead and hooked it up to a generic 4-pin Cobra mic. Actually came off another radio I purchased that day. It skips rolling, that's kind of nice. So let's go through it. So we have our A&L / noise blanker. Turn that on and off, right? Actually, it does cut down a lot on the static. That's pretty effective. And then we have high cut. And then down here we have PA. I do find it interesting that it has PA considering it's a base station, but they did include these. A lot of times, like I said, this is actually a mobile radio inside of this thing. They just modified it for use. And you could use this as, you know, if you wanted to have this set up someplace, you could use it to talk to, say, a factory floor or something like that. So that would be an interesting use for it. But back over here, we have our on-off volume. I'll go ahead and turn it down. We have our squelch control here. Pretty standard stuff. And then mic RF gain. So let me turn the RF gain way up. So there's some skip rolling. I'll go ahead and turn it down. So RF gain, we'll turn that all up. And then over here, again, this is nice. It is a sideband radio. So for a base station, this would be a desirable model. This is something that might slip under the radar for most folks. Might think it's just a regular AM only, but it is a sideband model. So we do have upper and lower sidebands available here. And then, of course, at the end, if it's going to be a sideband radio, it does have to have a clarifier. Down over here, we have our channel 9, which my LED here you can see is intermittent. It was working fine earlier. Now it's shown incorrectly. But 9, which is your emergency. Again, not really useful these days, but it is there. And then we do have our dial, our indicator here for all our channels. So looks to me like, yeah, it looks like channels 30 through 40 on this may not be working right. It could very well just be a loose crystal, or I'm not sure what's going on there. But I'll have to play with that some more. It's just unfortunate because, you know, obviously the sideband action is usually 35 through 40. But let's see here. I'll go back. There's 17. There's some activity going on. And of course, the Super Bowl is going. It does have a dial, I mean a meter, not a dial. And of course it does work. You have RX, TX, and your signal meter does work well. It's kind of a dim light, but I like that. It's not, you know, if you were having this in a dark room, it wouldn't bother you too much. So yeah, overall, the Uniden 810 Pro E is a radio that I've only seen once before in all my time looking at radios or looking for radios. And it was a chassis. It was broken. Like the cover was gone. A lot of the guts were missing out of it. I think the power supply was still there, but that was about it. So it was pretty well toast. This is the only time I've ever seen one complete. And of course, it does have some minor issues. I'm sure that it's probably a bad solder joint or something like that. Fix both this light and the channels 30 through 40. And I'm going to do my best to fix it. I'm not a radio tech by any means, but a lot of times a little bit of love is all it takes to get these things back up and running. That being said, this radio is actually going to a listener. I've got to repay a favor. That's what I'm going to do. Not really a favor. That's the wrong way of putting it. About a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now. Gosh, has it been that long? Dallas Rife gave me the RCI that I usually have in here, the 10 and 12 meter ham radio. That's been moved inside to get hooked up inside as my my inside rig. Like I'm going to have that as my main power. My main radio in there. I'm going to be bringing a power supply in there to go with it. And when I showed the video of my scores over there at the Shelby HAM Fest, he expressed some interest in this. Apparently this is another rare radio that he had at some point had some interest in. And I am happy to be sending that along to him. So Dallas, look forward to that before Christmas, hopefully. And it may not have channels 30 through 40 working. We'll see what I can do on that, but hopefully it does. And I hope you get some use out of it, because I certainly have out of the radio you have gifted me. So that is it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this little review of the Uniden Pro 810E. An interesting late entry from Uniden. Certainly a worthy, I wouldn't say successor to the Washington, but a pretty decent brother or sister to go along with it. That's it for tonight. I'll see you next time. Take care.
There's always something that needs a little fixing on Far Point Farms. Freedom is mighty sweet.